Rain hammers the windshield, splintering it like shattered glass. The wipers are hopelessly lagging behind. Headlights cut through the downpour, carving a sickly yellow tunnel across the deserted road. That's the spot she vanished, absent from headlines, missing from official reports, but right there where the pavement ends and the forest swallows the truth whole. I'm Marcus Reed. I spent a decade as a homicide detective in the cold case unit. This is what the headlines missed. In this video, you'll catch the stakeout that almost broke me. The moment the case teetered between resolution and oblivion, and the truth that still haunts the town like a named ghost. The image tightens on the cruiser's roof, light red, then dim, then red again, throbbing in the dark like a dying heartbeat. The camera lingers on the empty passenger seat. A manila folder lies open. Inside, crime scene photos, a missing person flyer, a case summary dated 1998. The ink is faded, the edges are dog-eared. This file has been handled too many times by too many hands, each one praying for a different ending. The investigator, let's call him Daniel, rubs his temple. His breath fogs the glass. He whispers the missing woman's name into the humidity, Lydia Mercer. Lydia Mercer, he repeats, softer this time, like if he says it enough, she might answer. The rain hammers the roof, each drop a tiny hammer on tin. He reaches for the file. The paper sticks to his fingers. He peels it back carefully, as if the pages themselves might scream. On screen, Cold Case 47 1998B. Missing since summer 1998. Last seen near Black Hollow Road. Status presumed deceased. No photo, just a name, just a year, just a place that no longer exists on modern maps. The camera pushes in on Daniel's face, gaunt, unshaven, eyes ringed with exhaustion. He's not here for overtime. He's here because the coroner's report never came back, because the DNA from the scene was too degraded, because the only witness, a teenage girl, recanted her statement after pressure from the wrong people, and because tonight might be the night someone finally tells the truth. The flashlight flickers. A weak beam cuts through the rain. Daniel holds it steady against the steering wheel. The light bounces off the dashboard, casting long shadows across his face. He's not checking his phone, not scrolling, not waiting for a text. He's waiting for sound, any sound, a car door, a footstep, breathing. He knows the game. The killer always returns, not out of guilt, but out of habit. They can't help themselves. They need to see the damage they left behind. Daniel glances at the file again. Source, FBI Cold Case Database, 2023. The FBI outlines recent breakthroughs in cold case investigations, highlighting DNA-driven identifications that solved crimes decades old. He exhales slowly. The air fogs the windshield, Lydia Mercer written in mist. He closes his eyes. 10 years of false leads, dead ends, politicians promising funding that never arrives. 10 years of families begging for answers. 10 years of Lydia Mercer's mother calling every holiday, voice trembling. Did you find her? He opens his eyes, the flashlight dies, the darkness presses in, not just outside the car, inside, a weight, a presence. He swallows hard, the cruiser's engine ticks as it cools, then. A howl, not a dog, not a coyote, something deeper, something that knows the woods better than the loggers. The sound curls around the car, wraps around Daniel's spine like a cold hand. The howl lingers, it doesn't fade, it waits. Daniel's fingers tighten on the flashlight, his knuckles go white. He knows what it means. The killer isn't just out there, the killer is watching. He kills the flashlight, the beam dies, the darkness becomes absolute. He whispers into the black, show yourself. Silence then. A twig snaps, not from the road, from the trees behind him. Daniel doesn't move, he doesn't breathe, he doesn't blink, because he knows. If he doesn't catch a break tonight, the case slips deeper into cold water, and Lydia Mercer vanishes forever. The camera pulls back. The cruiser is just a shadow in the rain. The flashlight is dead, the file is closed, but the howl is still there, and so is she. On screen, she's still out there. The screen fades to black. A single line of white text appears. Source, FBI Cold Case Database, 2023. The text dissolves, the rain continues, the sound of it fills the silence. Then, a soft, distorted voice whispers, Lydia Mercer. He cracks open the battered notebook, its pages already smeared with frantic timestamps and half-drawn maps. Each entry nags at him, every sighting of the missing woman, her silhouette flashing against lightning, her name whispering on the wind, arrived as the sky roared. Outside the trailer, the storm shows no mercy, rain pounding the tin roof while the wind rattles the shutters. He jots down Storm 312M Pine Ridge, and the pattern tightens like a noose. He can hear his own breathing sync with the gusts, a low thrum that mirrors the static hiss of the old police radio. The margins of the notebook are crowded with a single line he scribbled after a New York case cracked. DNA genealogy turned the tide, source, New York Times. That headline haunts him because the breakthrough came after years of dead ends, and he fears the same darkness is closing in on his own investigation. A flashback slices through the present, a night 3 years ago, when a similar thunderstorm forced him to abandon a search on a ridge that later yielded a rusted chain and a broken lantern. The memory is vivid, the bitter cold, the feeling that something slipped past his sight, the echo of his own voice urging stay focused. The failure still lingers, a phantom that tightens his chest each time the clouds thicken. A sudden rustle in the brush snaps his attention away. He swivels, flashlight trembling, and catches a snag on a low branch, a torn strip of fabric snagged in the thorns. The cloth is faded red, the same shade as the scarf the missing woman was known to wear. He pulls the fragment free, feels the frayed edge, and a chill runs down his spine. The pattern matches the scarf's weave, a distinctive herringbone that only a few local tailors could replicate. His fear sharpens his senses, turning the ordinary into proof. He slides the fragment into his pocket, then flips to the page where he recorded the woman's description. Red scarf, woven, worn at the neck. The coincidence feels too precise to ignore. He reaches for the radio, its speaker crackling with static, and a fragmented voice cuts through. Hold heartbeat. The words are garbled, but the rhythm mirrors his own pulse, rapid, uneven, desperate. He leans closer as if the device could translate static into a warning. The FBI cold case report outlines how DNA-driven identifications have solved crimes once thought impossible. Source: FBI. He recalls the forensic turn that solved the 1990 New York murder, where a relative's DNA linked the perpetrator after decades of silence. Source: New York Times. The case was resurrected, the victim's family finally hearing a name. In his file, a note reads, "Potential DNA evidence pending analysis." The thought that a single strand could rewrite the narrative fuels both hope and terror. The court docket for the 1992 homicide shows a parallel. The indictment was revived after new forensic evidence surfaced, prompting a reopened investigation. Source: Court listener. The pattern repeats old clues, new technology, a chance at closure. He imagines the missing woman's case following that trajectory, but the clock ticks louder with each storm surge. The SEC filing on a forensic services firm's acquisition of a cold case DNA platform underscores how the industry is converging on unsolved mysteries. Source: SEC. It feels as though the whole system is aligning, yet his hands still shake. NPR's report on a decades-old cold case emphasizes the patience required to re-examine evidence with modern genetic genealogy tools. Source: NPR. The investigators described a slow, methodical grind, a phrase that now echoes in his mind as he watches the rain carve rivers across the mud outside. The grind is his own pages turned, fabric examined, radio listened to, each action a small, deliberate step toward a truth that refuses to surface. He writes a new entry, ink dark against the paper. 7:45 m. Red fabric confirmed, storm pattern consistent, radio static aligns with heartbeat. The words become a mantra, grounding him as the wind howls. Notebook, fabric, radio all converge into a single certainty. The storm is a signal, a thread that ties every sighting, every failure, every breath together. He closes the notebook, slides it into his satchel, and steps back into the night, rain soaking his boots, fear now a sharpened edge rather than a dull ache. He knows the next hours will be a test of endurance. The town behind the ridge holds its breath, its streets empty, its lights flickering as if waiting for a verdict. He walks toward the pine ridge, the storm swallowing his silhouette. A rusty gust of wind howled through the pine branches as the night thickened, and then out of nowhere, a shadowy figure slid from the dark. The shape crept forward with sharp, measured steps, its edges almost dissolving against the tree trunks. My heart hammered so hard I swear it rattled my ribs, every nerve in my body screamed, "Run!" Yet something deeper, darker, kept me locked in place. The flashlight in my grip wobbled like a leaf in a storm, its beam slashing a jagged slash through the black. And then, just like that, the light snagged on something half hidden in the dirt, a boot, its leather split and cracked, the size matching the missing girl's foot. I dropped to my knees, lungs burning, and swiped away clumps of dirt. The boot just lay there like it had been patiently waiting for someone to actually notice it. A cold wave slithered down my back. Under the boot, the ground gave way and a water-stained diary surfaced, its cover glistening with dark smears. The pages inside were soaked in something red, every line jagged with the last words of a life ending. I cracked it open, the ink was smudged, but the message still burned through. "I'm scared, they're coming, I don't know where to hide." The final line just stopped, the ink ending like a hand had suddenly been yanked away. What moments ago had been raw, crawling fear now snapped into razor-sharp clarity. My panic hadn't just whispered, it had pointed straight at the spot the killer thought was gone forever. It wasn't luck, it was dread turned into a spotlight, burning away the cover-up. And then it hit me, the bigger picture. The FBI's latest cold case playbook flat-out says breakthroughs happen when investigators let the emotional weight of the case lead the search. A lesson mirrored in today's DNA-driven cases. Source: the diary was DNA, but it anchored the search, pulling attention to proof that had slept for decades. Flip back to a 2023 New York Times piece where a 1990 murder finally cracked after detectives chased a hunch from a single clue, a shoe print that matched a suspect's size. Source: in my moment, that same panic acted like a bloodhound, dragging me straight to the buried boot and the diary that would become the whole case's pivot. The court docket for the 1992 homicide shows how fresh forensic finds can kick a stalled file back into motion, leading to a grand jury indictment once the hidden pieces finally surface. Source: this diary's blood-smeared pages. That's the new evidence, stitching the missing woman's last hours to the killer's hiding game. Even the forensic services world is singing the same tune. A 2020 SEC filing mentions that buying a cold case DNA platform suddenly let them spot overlooked clues faster, closing cases quicker. Source: my nighttime find. That's the raw, unvarnished version of the same idea. Fear and instinctive punch became the chisel that cracked the whole thing open. NPR's deep dive on a solved cold case hits the same note. Re-examining old clues with fresh eyes and modern tricks can shatter years of dead air. Source: the flashlights flicker, the boots reveal the diary's silent scream, every piece lined up, snapping the town's eerie silence like a twig. Now, diary in hand, the story flips from guesswork to unshakable fact. The terror that once froze me solid is now the spark that lights the path back to the truth. The town's whispered dread will explode into a roar when the case steps from shadow into the harsh glare of proof, and the woods that once muffled everything will finally cough up the raw, undeniable truth. Word spreads like a spark through group chats, porch whispers, the soft glow of phones lighting up dim living rooms. Slowly, the whole town drifts in one after another. A few clutch each other's arms, a nervous knot of elbows. Others linger solo, eyes glued to the same screen, soaking in the three stark words: found, identified, truth. This wasn't just another dusty cold case file. It felt like a cut that never healed, a hush that slipped into the town's everyday beat, but that hush can't hold up forever. Especially now that fresh tools are slicing through decades of fogged DNA, genealogy, relentless re-examination. The FBI reports that more than 600 cold cases cracked in the past 5 years owe their resolution to genetic breakthroughs alone. Source: FBI Cold Case Report 2023. That's the grit of persistence, and it isn't a trick reserved for pros. Anyone willing to take another look can wield it. That's why we're calling on you. Drop a memory, maybe a voicemail, or a stranger you spotted on a road, even a tip that seems tiny. Fear, oddly enough, works like a compass. It points to the things we dread confronting, and that's often where the truth hides. The New York Times chronicled a family whose offhand tip sparked the solving of a 1990 murder years later, after DNA linked a distant relative to the crime scene. Source: NYT August 15, 2023. When the sun dips, the road sits silent, bare, but that silence won't last forever, not if we keep digging. The night still keeps its secrets, and a few of those mysteries are just waiting for brave souls to step forward.